Who's a wholesome celebrity who's actually kinda badass? Audie Murphy, most decorated soldier of World War II, and possibly the most decorated American soldier ever. After the war he had a successful acting career. Throughout his career he refused to star in anything related to alcohol or cigarettes because he knew little kids were looking up to him. He also was very open about suffering from what we now know as PTSD and advocated for better treatment for other vets suffering from it. Drive. Sir Brian Harold May, legendary rock star Queen guitarist, songwriter and sometime vocalist, has a legitimate PhD in astrophysics, estimated IQ of 180, collaborates with NASA and the European Space Agency, renowned expert at stereoscopic 3D photography and historian of its origins, has published multiple books on the subject, including Queen in 3D, comprised of stereoscopic photos taken by himself and others on their Nani tours. He is also deeply involved in animal rescue and conservation causes, especially when it comes to European badgers, hedgehogs, and foxes. Founder of the Save Me Trust to benefit wildlife rescue work, owner of the London Stereoscopic Company and of BMG Brian May Guitars. Like seriously, Sir Brie, leave some brains and talent for the rest of us. Julia Child. She spent years in the OSS, precursor to the CIA, and even worked directly for the director. She developed a shark repellent to keep them from exploding ordnance designed to blow up German U-boats. Her recipe is still used by the U.S. military to this day. After the war she was assigned to maintain classified communication records in Sri Lanka and later China. She was awarded the Meritorious Civilian Service Award, which is the highest military award a non-military person can win in the U.S. Bob Ross's signature calm demeanor was a direct result of his service in the Air Force. He was first sergeant of the clinic at a base in Alaska, a role that frequently made him act tough and mean. In his own words, the guy who makes you scrub the latrine, the guy who makes you make your bed, the guy who screams at you for being late to work. After getting out of the service, he decided that he never wanted to raise his voice again. Sorrel book, many roles, but most notably Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard. Served in the United States Army during the Korean War for 2 years as a counterintelligence officer. Book was fluent in French, Japanese, Spanish, Russian, and Italian. He said that he also fussed with a half-dozen other languages such as Arabic, Mandarin Chinese, Dutch, Persian, Polish, and Swedish. In his spare time, he was a guest conductor at the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. Pretty interesting and accomplished even outside his lengthy and varied acting career. Kind of an old one. But Abraham Lincoln was a goddamn beast of a man. In his youth Lincoln was reportedly lifted a grown man off the ground by his neck using only one hand and then threw him also only using one hand. He also reportedly lifted a full barrel of whiskey over his head to drink directly from the barrel. A full barrel of whiskey weighs about 500 pounds. The dude was freakishly strong. My vote is for Catherine McNamara. I really resonated with a lot of her characters. From Clary in Shadowhunters to Mia in Arrow and Abby in Walker, Independence. Her characters helped me through a very dark time in my life. So I am always grateful for that. Not only is she a fantastic actor, but she's incredibly kind. Having had the chance to talk with her a few times at conventions, she really made me feel so seen and even brought up my blog to read on her phone and was super interested in my book, which I am proud to say I was able to give her a copy. Something that really inspires me is how she strives to be a stubborn optimist, which I am trying my best at too, as well as her fitness journey, since that has always been a struggle for me. She does a lot of her own stunts and all of the fight choreo in her movies and TV shows has been so badass. I especially loved her recent work in Air Force One Down. Even though I'm a guy, I think that badass women are great sources of inspiration. She's someone I consider my hero, and I am so thankful for the impact she and her characters have had on my life. Shirley Temple, lovely child actress, then as an adult became a fantastic U.S. diplomat, according to her Wikipedia page, because me typing it up on my phone in a public bathroom could not do her justice. She began her diplomatic career in 1969 when she was appointed to represent the U.S. at a session of the United Nations General Assembly, where she worked at the U.S. mission under Ambassador Charles Yost. Later, she was named U.S. Ambassador to Ghana and also served as the first female U.S. Chief of Protocol. In 1988, she published her autobiography, Child Star. After her biography was published, she served as the U.S. Ambassador to Czechoslovakia, 1989 to 1992, also the namesake of an absolutely bangin' soda mix. Keanu Reeves gets paid millions upon millions of dollars for his roles but donates vast amounts of it to various charities. He negotiated for part of the revenue from at least the second and third Matrix movie to go to the crew. Although I wouldn't be surprised if that was a regular occurrence when he could make it work. Outside of filming, it seems like he just leads a quiet life. Content to be an actor and not a celebrity. He doesn't seek the fame but accepts it as part of his job. And if you've ever seen him training for the John Wick films, you know that those badass credentials are nothing to be scoffed at either. Lots of different meanings of the word badass on here. Here's my list for at one point they were genuinely dangerous because they were in the forces and should not have been messed with. 1. Christopher Lee, by an absolute mile. He was in the World War II predecessor of the SAS. No one comes close. 2. James Blunt, active combat and tank commander. 3. Adam Driver, Marines. Mortar. 4. Mel Brooks, World War II, landmine locator. 5. Gene Hackman, Marines. Radio. 6. Lewis Collins, for UK folks. Paris, and he actually qualified for the SAS but didn't go forward to active service as he was a celebrity. Bound to be missing some other ex-soldiers. Garth Brooks. He divorced his wife before starting a physical relationship with Trisha Yearwood, though undoubtedly he emotionally cheated. Took a break at the peak of his career, definitely court-mandated but he agreed to it and did it, to raise his children and give space to his ex to build her own career. Has several charities, specifically one that aids children and 100% of the money goes to children. Has done charity gigs to financially fundraise for areas devastated by extreme weather. Bridget Mendler. She was simultaneously enrolled at both MIT and Harvard. She was awarded her JD from Harvard, and the last info I can find says she's pursuing her PhD at MIT. She already earned her MS there. She's an environmental and anti-bullying activist and a philanthropist. During COVID, she and her husband started a company that makes satellites, and, as if she wasn't busy enough, she also fostered and adopted a young boy. I'm exhausted just reading it all. This is a random one, but Lamorne Morris. Winston from New Girl. In the earlier days of COVID, my best friend had to have really intense back surgery. She had to be alone for days in the hospital. It was a horrible time. Was trying so hard to figure out some way to make her smile from across the country. I went to Cameo. Couldn't find a single person she would have cared about except Lamorne. But it said he was inactive. I'm absolutely not one to attempt something like this, but I'd him on Instagram. Explained the situation. Told him I'd pay whatever his price was. 10 minutes later he sent back an incredibly funny and thoughtful video for my friend. He was so kind and gracious. Even responded to my friend's mom, who'd him to say thank you because it really did lift my friend's spirits. He's a prince. James Doohan, aka Scotty from the original Star Trek. He first saw combat with the Canadian 3rd Infantry Division, landing in the second wave on Juno Beach on D-Day. He personally shot 2 enemy snipers before being hit by 6 rounds from friendly fire. 4 in his leg, 1 in the chest, and 1 through his right middle finger. The bullet to his chest was stopped by a silver cigarette case given to him by his brother. His right middle finger had to be amputated, something he would conceal on screen during most of his career as an actor, sometimes with a flesh-colored glove with a faux finger. Doohan then graduated from Air Observation Pilot Course 40 with 11 other Canadian artillery officers as a pilot artillery spotter. Although he was never actually a member of the RCAF, Doohan was once labeled the craziest pilot in the Canadian Air Force. In the late spring of 1945 he slalomed a plane between telegraph poles to prove it could be done, earning himself a serious reprimand. https://n Wikipedia org/wiki/James_Doohan, RIP you badass. Dee Snider, who talked before Congress to explain that heavy metal isn't satanic and should be treated as a legitimate form of music. That presentation did a lot to combat the satanic panic that was going on at the time. Fred Rogers convinced Congress to continue funding public television for the purpose of educating children. Keanu Reeves remains humble in the face of stardom and actually learned gun techniques for a film but continues to train long after the film was done shooting. Prince spent a lot of time and money helping children learn and practice music, going so far as to fund an entire school that was struggling. MC Hammer, retired from the limelight and spends his time as a pastor in a small-town church, is very active in his community and always takes time to listen to kids. Often gives advice to upcoming, amateur artists on the ins and outs of the music industry, often going so far as to spend time listening to their demo tapes. Andre the Giant. He was the nicest, gentlest man you'll ever meet. He would often take time to just chill with fans. He was a very humble man. I had the opportunity to have lunch with him. He treated me and a few other employees at a Blockbuster he frequented. Dude was so nice. James Doohan, who played Scotty on Star Trek, was known as a super nice and humble dude. He was also a war hero. Stormed Juno Breach, personally shot 2 snipers, and lead his team through a field of anti-tank mines. He was shot 6 times with a Bren machine gun. The bullets hit his legs, hand and chest. His middle finger had to be amputated. A silver cigarette case in his pocket, a gift from his father, saved his life from a mortal chest wound. Keanu Reeves. No shortage of positive stories and reasons why he is so beloved. My favorite being that he has continuously turned down Figa, that has been trying so hard to sign him onto the MCU, and turned down so many other lucrative roles, but gladly accepts smaller roles in movies like Toy Story 4, or random roles like the Sage in the SpongeBob movie. Especially seeing the way he interacts with kids who see these movies and become fans.